click is all it takes to lose everything.
We are in a cyber war. You can either be a defendant or you can be a victim.
We need to have clear metrics on security. One of the reasons why IT is very mature and security is not in most organizations, IT has clear metrics and security doesn't. One of those metrics you might have heard of is called the 5 nines. Most CIOs, most chief information officers have to deliver 99.999% uptime availability. That's called the 5 nines. If they deliver 99.999% uptime and availability, they're considered a good CIO, they get their bonus, they keep their job. If they don't deliver, they typically will lose their job or lose their bonus. Very clear metric. Guess what? The executives understand the metric, the CIO knows what he has to deliver, and the entire team is aligned on that mission. That's why IT is so mature, because it's a clear, distinct metric that everyone's aligned with. If we want to win with security, we need to have the 5 nines of security. We need to have a clear metric that everyone's aligned with. Now, here's the problem. You do have a security metric. The problem is it's a bad metric. What is the metric that every executive and board of directors uses as the 5 nines of security today? The metric is simple. If we don't have a breach, security is doing their job. How do I know that's the case? Because what happens after a breach? The chief information security officer always gets fired. Even if they had nothing to do with it, even if somebody else didn't follow the rules, even if another department lied to them, the CISO still gets fired. Because the metric that's being used is a bad metric. The reason it's a bad metric is every company is going to have a breach. So if your metric is we don't have a breach means I'm doing my job, and we know we're going to have a breach, you basically have a terminal illness. So I joke that most CISOs have terminal illnesses because they are going to be fired. It's just in a month, 9 months, or 12 months, because the metric is flawed. So we need a better metric. Now, I've been working security metrics for over 3 years. It's one of my passions and focus. I have a lot of passions and focus in cybersecurity. And here's what I found. The metric I'm going to give you that we use with our clients is not perfect. I don't like it, but it's better than any other metric, and I can't find a better one. So it's funny, whenever I give this presentation, I always have people come up to me and go, Eric, I don't like your metric. And I go, I don't like it either. What's a better one? I don't know. Then use it. Use mine until you come up with a better one. But one of the problems in security is people are like, well, I don't like your metric, so I'm not going to use it. So great. You don't like my metric, that's a heck of a lot better than the current metric, so you're going to use the worst metric. Use the better metric until we can figure out something better. Now, here's my metric. My metric is number of attempted attacks. How many attempted attacks were there against your organization? Now, what I like about this metric, it's a positive metric. It's basically telling the executives how many attacks you've stopped, how many attacks you've defended against within your organization. One of the metrics that companies use that I hate is vulnerability scanning. It basically says how many vulnerabilities do we have. It's a negative metric. You're basically telling the executives all the problems and all the flaws within your organization. So think about this. Each quarter you go to your executives and you say, well, we have 300 vulnerabilities this quarter. And then a few months later, we now have 400 vulnerabilities. We now have 200. You're basically going to your executives each quarter and go, look at how much I suck. Look at how much I suck. I'm not doing my job. It's a bad metric. Attempted attacks is a good metric. Now, one of the things with metrics is you have to be able to measure it. Well, here's the cool part. Almost every company I work with has a firewall. What is another word for a blocked packet? A blocked packet is an attempted attack. If it wasn't an attempted attack, it would be blocked. Now, yes, we could sit there and debate whether that's exact, whether every single drop packet is actually an attack vector, but guess what? It's close enough. It's a close enough accurate number that we use it. And now what you do is you now have an easy way to measure, and now you go to your executives and say, do you realize this week we had 7,000 attempted attacks? 7,000 attempts that we blocked and successfully defended against. Now what you're doing, you're changing your perspective. Let me let you in on a little story. I was going in and doing an executive roundtable with 7 executives from Fortune 50 financial institutions. And I asked them, how many attempted attacks does your organization have a week? And every one of them, well, maybe 5 or 6, maybe 9 or 10. And one said, he thought about it and said, probably 12. And I said, sir, I noticed you thought about it for a while. What made you say 12? And he said, Eric, it was simple. I thought what would be significant. And I thought anything more than 12 would be significant. And if it was significant, my security team would have told me. So because my security team has not told me, it's not significant, and I said it must be less than 12. And that was like blown away, because he was right. They have no idea how bad the problem is. Now you go to your CEO and you tell them you have 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 attempted attacks a week. They'll be like, really? It's that much. Now check this out. If every week you go to them and say, there were 6,000 attempted attacks that we stopped. In 8 months, if you have a breach, now what are they going to say? They're going to say, well, wow, if we're getting attacked 7,000 or 8,000 times every week and we're defending against it, and after 8 months, one got in, that's acceptable. And now you're not going to get fired, you're going to get additional resources. You're now going to get the additional information that you need. So if you have a better metric, please send me an email at ecole@secureanchor.com. But if you don't, and I've been doing this for over a year and haven't ever been given a better metric, use my metric. It's not perfect. I don't love it, but it's a heck of a lot better than no attempted attacks. If you want to win in security, you got to clearly communicate, make the executives aware of factual data, and by giving them reports either weekly or monthly on the number of attempted attacks, that's the best way to give them visibility and show them the return on investment they're getting for security.